things first, you already win. You already him, you don't gotta pretend. Fuck them, you already king. You stay real, you confident in your skin. It's all now, sit in the power that you already in. This the story of a master from a true Bedouin, far away from home than few ever been. First round pick, league of the smooth gentleman. The game rigged like 50 said it's a cruel sentiment. I'm from the era when lyrics and bars is over everything. 5-star veteran. You couldn't walk in my fucking shoes or carry them. Excuse my borderline is very thin. Been married to the game like ever since maybe 2010. I realized most of y'all not serious. Point blank period. I flex and twist necks like cherry stems. Thought he was buried, but there he is, a new narrative. I keep winning. They not used to what you bring. I keep winning. I keep winning. Yeah, what up? It's October 22nd, 2024, and this is episode 92 of How Billy Sees It. I'm a little bit later than typical today. For those who know, this is we're continuing the 30 for 30 series, 30 episodes in 30 days, and I believe this is the 9th episode of that series. And we're just flowing through it, getting it done. I've been getting on in the morning, but today it is around 9:30. This felt like the right time to get on, yo. Keep the thing going. And if you've clicked on this, then you've probably seen the title of this episode is Defining Spirituality. Which sounds like a heavy ass topic, right? It sounds like, oh, let me put this. Sometimes this thing is kind of loud. Let me bring that down. Sounds like super heavy, man, but I'm gonna have a lighthearted conversation about spirituality today. I'm gonna try to define things and kind of like get into some detail about like how I view things, and I'm gonna try to keep this joint to around a 30-minute episode, yo. So I should be out of here about 10 o'clock. Can we do this? I think we can. You just add the bark at the end, yo. Why not? Yeah, yo. So spirituality. Why do I even want to talk about this? I just feel like I've been having a lot of conversations with people about spirituality in different ways and in different realms. I work with someone I respect a great deal, a political person and a labor organizer and a very thoughtful political mind. And I know that he's a skeptic about religion generally. And, you know, I know there's an inner experience and an inner journey that we're all having, but he's a skeptic about religion in very much the ways that I'm a skeptic of religion. And we were talking about something. I do think that there's something I want to point to called spirituality. And I want to have this conversation because I wanted to have the conversation with him. I wanted to have the conversation with myself. I wanted to get this out here and maybe immortalize it on YouTube and sort of have it interrogated, because I think there is something called spirituality that is separate from religion. I think that religion is a human construct that bases itself on the notion of a spirituality, but that it has all the marks of the human constructs. Religions, to me, have to do with human narratives. It has to do with human rituals and structures, churches and people and organizations and all of this stuff, but that there is something else called spirituality. There's something else. Yep. Applaud that. Spirituality, it seems to me, is definitionally a challenge to articulate. It is a challenge to get in there and discuss. It is a weird space that hasn't been mapped out. That is what it is. There are realms of the unknown, forces in physics that are lesser known, you know, where science attempts to give language to stuff. And then there are parts that we don't quite step into. For instance, ethics. Ethics is a component of a lot of spirituality. Sometimes it seems that those two things can be intertwined. And it's in part, it has to be that because, you know, sometimes you talk to science people and they believe that there's no ethics in science. They believe that there's nothing there's nothing a scientist can say about what someone ought to do. They want to. This is an argument I've seen made that science talks about what is. It does not talk about what should be or what ought to be. So this is a realm that gets left out. Who picks it up are religious figures quite often to help us understand our connections to one another and how we should treat each other and things like this, and to give language to that. But this is a space that language like inherently escapes. It is mysterious because we understand that words only point to things and that words come after the things. I've talked about this in several other episodes, that words are labels and symbols that we created, avatars that we created to name something. How do I know that? Let me give you a good example, yo. Listen, you say that a word, things are what they are. Like, I saw a debate recently about some of the Daily Wire idiots talking about what is a woman again. And I think they failed to realize that a woman is a word. It's 5 letters. It's 2 syllables. And a woman is a word, and it's a social categorization. And further, if you don't agree with me on that, let's take a look at something like a horse. Everyone knows what a horse is, right? But a horse is a word. It's a 1-syllable word, HORSE, 5 letters. In English, we call it a horse. If we were speaking a different language, we would use a different set of letters to articulate what it is. But we're still talking about the same thing. There's something about the isness of a horse that is separate from those letters. You and I, as English speakers, have associated 4-legged, animals that are, pretty big, thoroughbred horses. You could service animals. This horse, this creature that we're looking at, we've identified that with the word horse. If we were speaking if we were speaking French, the word would be chevalier, right? It's an entirely different word. 3 syllables, entirely different. And yet that word is resonant for the French speaker to the isness of what a horse is. So things are separate from the words that they are, right? And if you go further, if we're like, if you and I call things horses as lay people, but if we're having a deep conversation with someone who understands horses, then it'll be deeper than that. They'll have even greater language, right? You might call something a horse and they'll go, oh no, that's not a horse. That is I don't even know. Obviously for me, as again, a layperson, I might say a pony or something, but I know that there are other prefixes and suffixes and other breeds and things. And people might go, well, that's not really a horse. That's more of a blah, 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 blah. Because there are these differences in details, texture of truth that is prevalent to that person. And so the language we use, the way we describe things is incomplete. It's relative based on our understanding. It's relative based on the labels that we've adopted and the labels that we've inherited. The depth of our understanding. We are in some ways limited by these things. If we have a poor map, we may be talking about things in a limited way. It may be good enough in a certain circle. If we're talking at a bar with general people, it may be good enough to talk about a horse in a certain way. But in another way, again, if you're speaking to an expert, you would realize that it's entirely, it's entirely relative. And the same is true with a woman. It's okay to, in a room full of dudes, we can talk about a woman in a certain way. We can assume certain things about a woman. And it'll be good enough. But you include a woman and you realize in that conversation, and you realize just how far off a group of men can be, how you can have a definition that could be far off or not even off, like that those other definitions satisfy the needs of that room and that situation, but women are thinking about themselves entirely differently. You know, like there's a realm of the woman experience, of the female experience. These are two different things. There's a realm of the biological female experience that a male person will never know. Right? The um, menstrual cycle and all these other things, birth situation, even the context and the way that women talk about like things that we both do together. So men and women both have sex. Women talk about sex very differently. Even like the words, the way that they'll describe things will be an entirely different thing. But we're talking about the same thing. We're talking about the same experience, the sexual congress. So what am I trying to do there? I'm trying to dissipate the strength that we have on our knowledge of certain things. I want to like really like the spiritual journey, spirituality points to, and I'm saying points to with intention because, again, I don't want to sit here and tell you what spirituality is. I can't do that. It points to. It that's the best we can. I'm telling you that even the word horse points to something, and that the word Billy, me, you know, every word you could apply to me, black man, points to something. But that the truth of the thing will be greater. So spirituality points to something that escapes words, and that as we're describing it, especially, you know, as we're describing it, the challenge of describing it is not a point in favor of atheism. You know, that's something I had to realize too. As someone who spent years identifying as an atheist and identifying as a logic person, I could tell you all the reasons I did that in response to other things. I realized that logic was a domain that I wanted to kind of like lean into, that it had validity and had more validity than some of these other religious manifestations that I saw. But when someone aims to talk about spirituality, you know, and struggles, or that there's a vagueness to it, that actually makes sense because we are talking about a realm that hasn't been mapped. All right, so let me go to my let's applause for that. And let me go to the other reason I wanted to talk about spirituality, because on Facebook, I mean, obviously, again, we're in this crazy time with all these just loads of ideas swirling around, and again, that person I work with who, you know, he was saying that in times like these, people lean into did he use the word spirituality? People lean into theories. He said that people come up with and lean into theories that are outside of the typical logic understanding thing, and he's suspicious of that. And so I saw on Facebook, I will share the screen, Billy full screen as well. No, watching. This post here, yo, it says spirituality has no rules to follow, no leaders, no central guidance book, no syndicated television shows, no ministries to support, no regular meetings, no organization to join, and no place to send your money. But intuitively, millions of us all over the world are aware of the spiritual template. I found that was interesting. I gave it a like on that. And then right at the top, this dude here says, define spirituality. So I found that to be a decent enough challenge. And so I decided to give it a go. And I'm going to share what I thought, or what I wrote here. Again, spirituality escapes language. We are pointing to things, but I'm going to try to use words to point to what I'm saying. I define spirituality. Put this here. Oh, I got to keep it here. All right. I define spirituality as a personal ever evolving relationship with the divine, with source energy resonant within all living things. Applause for that. Source energy resonant within all living things. Understanding the root theory is that all things are connected, and particularly all living things, particularly sentient things. Uh, we can describe, even in the realm of science, we can understand how things are connected. We know how trees communicate. We know how people and humans and trees have a symbiotic relationship through the transfer of carbon dioxide and oxygen. It's a very simplistic sense of it, but that relationship is there. That there's just a nonstop relationship. That ecosystems and humans are interconnected through the languages that we speak and the cultures that we share, and the way that we group and produce and create things together. So it's a personal, ever evolving relationship with this indescribable source energy resonant within all living things. We can call that God. We can use the word God to describe that thing. But again, that is a word. God, if God conjures up the image of a white dude in the clouds, then that's your God. If God conjures up an image of something else, it's that. But that, whatever image you come up with, whatever descriptor, whatever word you're using, these will be your words. These are not, God doesn't care. The spiritual, the source energy doesn't care. It's aloof to these descriptors and these distinctions, these human distinctions, which are necessary for human narrative to occur. But that spirituality is a personal, ever evolving relationship with the divine, with the source energy resonant within all things. I say here, I know how vague that might sound. And I put that because I hate when sometimes you get these this is we trying to talk about trying to define something and people come with this very flowery, interesting stuff. I know how vague that might sound. So let me talk about it from a different angle. Recognizing that these are just words which can't help but to fail to describe something beyond symbols, okay? Spirituality points to a journey, the journey of each of our lives. Each of us perceives this experience through a narrow and personal lens, a perspective, and we're all riddled with stories about what we believe we are. I've talked about this. I think that the story of the typical scientific story of we're just evolved apes does us a disservice. It is a story. It is a narrow framework that is sort of a metaphor that helps us kind of relate ourselves to nature, and it's tied to a specific scientific, evolutionary biology framework, and so it can be helpful in that way. But that is not what we are. That we are greater than that, and beyond that, we say we're riddled with stories about what we believe we are, how we should behave. We have words and definitions and narratives about the world and ourselves. We have a tax ID and a credit score and a career. And we have socialized definitions of beauty, of success, of value. And we have anxieties about all these things. And so that's key too, right? Beyond our definitions of ourselves as humans, we are carrying, I'm people call me up to be an animator. So I respond as an animator. I think of myself as an animator. I think of myself as an entrepreneur. My mom calls me up as her son. And so I think of myself as a son and I respond that way. And I have anxieties in both cases, right? With the client, a new client, my mom, I want to be a good son. With Sheba, I want to be a good husband. With, all these things. The bank, we have a credit score. The bank defines me in a certain way. It doesn't care about the fullness of me. It doesn't ask that question. It's not interested in my root energy and my root desires and what I am in a full sense. It defines me as a number. It has an algorithm and a set of mathematical equations that come up with a number that relates to how quickly I pay my credit cards down or how much I use or things like this. And it ranks me on this stuff and it comes up with a number, and that they've what happens is very successfully that number is driven into our minds as like something important, and we define ourselves by that number. We are taught to define ourselves by that. That's the power of the banks and the financial systems, helping us define ourselves by this and ranking us and placing us in a different um, social category, more like, a category for their purposes. It's for their purposes. That's the whole thing. Definitions of beauty we've inherited, right? Racist definitions of beauty quite often. We understand now, we have different definitions of beauty. There's different pockets. Black people define beauty this way and white people do, and different cultures and societies and nations have different standards of beauty that make sense for themselves. But each of us is internalizing a sense of that. Each of us feels the anxiety of whether we are attractive, whether we are desirable, lovable, right? Based on these things, especially as children, because we can be so mean to each other. Like we people have to contend with how to love themselves in spite of the fact that they might not fit those standards. The spiritual journey, I'm back to the definition here. The spiritual journey is a challenging personal process to unravel these stories and arrive at truth, which is that it's all one thing, this moment, this gift of experience. So to unravel all that stuff, the definitions given to me from the financial system, definitions given to me by my parents, definitions given to me by clients, even I've spent years trying to build my definition, my reputation among the clients and this and that. And so again, that's a big thing to break down from. I was on a hustle culture joint where, I was juggling all kinds of clients and doing my thing and making sure I met deadlines. And it was very important. It was very smart to care about that. Actually, that's smart for me to build that kind of reputation and have the word of mouth client growth that I had in my time. Like, that's a valuable way to approach the world, but it's still worldly. It's very obviously attached to a world thing, and that's okay. Just like the responsibilities and attachments I have to my mom are okay and valuable even, and can produce joy for me, or it can produce anxieties. It can do both of those things, right? But the spiritual journey says it's all one thing. This moment, time even is one thing. We have this gift of experience, and it is now, and we're just always now. What a amazing to notice that. What an amazing opportunity that it always is, as we are breathing and living and experiencing. Right? Applause for that. The spiritual journey is a journey that helps us arrive to the understanding that we are perfect and that we each have potential for a flourishing love. How many of us feel that we're perfect? How many of us feel that we're perfect? Most of us do not. I have spent the grand majority of my life feeling that I am not. As a man growing up in Brooklyn, poor, and even as a young adult, working poor or working, grinding, upper entrepreneur, middle class, I was given a framework about the world and a map about the world that really defined myself, my manhood, around having gobs of money, like being really financially secure. It seems like an amazing life to just where, money's not an object and you're not thinking about it. I've spent probably most of my life, for sure. I'm, definitely still most of my life, careful about credit cards and this and that, careful about, spending, thinking, budgeting, being very precise and trying to do that. I remember my young 20s, just like, you got the car, you don't know what's on there. You be like, you swiping the card, like, hope this shit goes through. you know, you build up these anxieties around that we don't even realize, yo. And um, it makes sense to navigate this thing as best you can. But at some point, the spiritual journey forces you to realize that that shit does not matter, yo. That shit does not matter. And that you are perfect. And if something isn't perfect, if something feels not perfect, that you truly have within your power, within your realm, around you, the capacity to step into something more. That you could choose. You can choose to step into something more. I've found that in order to do that, one of the things I do is almost as if it's like a it's like a box with limited space that I have to shed something first. I kind of have to shed something. I have to make room for truth. Like I'm that big. I have to make room for the bad idea I had about how I'm not creative or I'm not an artist that I had several years ago. Or the idea that I'm supposed to be humble. You know, I grew up in a weird, like, I've learned recently to challenge this humility thing I had to recognize that humility was an important thing for me as a kid. It was a great way to navigate the world and to keep myself safe. It's also, I think, a good skill to have for people to not be assholes. So I don't appreciate assholes. So I think humility is a nice tool to have in the tool belt, but that you can fetishize that. You can identify with that too strongly. You can say that okay, I'm a humble person, and then you fail to step into something bigger because you are performing small. You become too adept at performing small for one reason or another. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's got different reasons why they might do that. And even those reasons might be good. Might be good in a certain context, but the healing journey, the spiritual journey includes awareness of just how big you can be. In my song Fool's Journey, I talk about you know, noticing that I'm the culprit of being big and fake, maybe, but that but I'm also limitless, right? You start off looking at the world, accusing the world of other things. Then you find that you're a part of the world, that you're that. And then you get to the next step, which is the acceptance of the fullness. It includes those harms and those dark spaces. It also includes the light. The spiritual journey is about accepting the oneness of all things and of the self. So it ends, the definition I have here ends with coming to a place of acceptance. It's like we are not changing anything. We're not demanding anything. We are simply coming into alignment with what is. We are accepting what already is. To see it and believe it and to actually live from that place rather than from the other more fearful place, the other more fractured place, the other place where that is riddled with labels and definitions that have been given to us and values that have been given to us. It is setting all of these for oneself with the knowledge, and you're no longer a child, right? So now with the knowledge and the wisdom of like navigating this shit, you still gotta like play in the space, but that you're bigger than that. You're not limited by that. That to me is the healing journey, and it's it's a spiritual process of shedding and noticing and accepting. For me, it's been to like intentionally changing patterns. Sometimes noticing a pattern and without understanding fully why I should, it's like change that pattern. Um, as a test, even, can I? What happens when I change that pattern? I've been shocked. I've been super surprised. I'm talking about any number of things from wearing nail polish to um, my relationship with my mom to my relationship with my employer, my sense of safety around using my voice, speaking clearly and accurately and articulating my inner experience, my inner truth with confidence, testing that and seeing what happens and learning that the world adjusts around you. You know, the world adjusts around you. We don't get that sense. We get the sense that everything is rigid, that the world is rigid, that people, our sense of people's judgment is rigid. And that external sense is also that rigid external sense is also the rigid um, projection that we heap on ourselves, and it prevents us from this thing that I'm saying, this shedding. I speak as a man and a black man who was raised very much to avoid feelings and to learn how to be tough and how to perform toughness and to push through things. I played football. I was a tough kid, and I took pride in that. But to know that it's like um, tough as in resilient, tough as in strong, tough as in able to bounce back and to grow and learn, but not tough as in rigid, not tough as in like um, rigid and brittle in my sense of who I can be. This gives me the opportunity to shed. I grew up around dudes who like would take pictures with their girlfriends, man, and not smile. It wasn't cool to show that you enjoyed your girlfriend too much. Keep it a buck. How many people? I'm gonna put an applause in that. How many people know about these pictures, man, where you see the dude looking like this, looking at the camera, and the girl is like draped over him and kissing him, and like I see it less now, and I'm grateful for that. But I grew up around that. That's a story. It was a story of a performance, and I'm so lucky that I was able to shed that because as I operate now, I can proudly um, boast my wife and boast my own happiness. I also was taught that it was unsafe and unwise to talk about being happy generally. Like, yeah, yeah, everything's cool, man. Like happiness, certain manifestations of smiling too much, down to colors. As a men, I'm wearing a black hoodie. I have a range more, but I grew up in a black and dark blue range, maybe a little bit of tan. These are the masculine colors, yo. Didn't do the pink. Didn't do a lot of colors. I'm generally, honestly, like I'm a subdued kind of dude. I like to chill, especially in public. I'm not like a draw attention to self through fashion person. That's not how I see myself. That's not, I don't get excited about, you know, what's the word I want to use? If I call it flamboyant, is that the word I want to use? But there's a difference. There's a difference between really honing in on yourself and like what it means and what colors work for you and whatever, and getting your sense of like your fashion presentation versus like knowing that you can only wear black, which is something we grew up on, man. We still see that shit. Kind of thuggish stuff. We only wear black. And there's nothing, these sound benign. There's nothing inherently wrong with only wearing black, except it's indicative of something. That's not the only place that there's something there. That's not the only place, yo. It's that is a symptom, or symptom implies an illness, right? So I want to avoid that. It is a flag, and it is it's not. It offers us the opportunity to say, if you are so tightly wound that you avoid a whole spectrum of colors in like your t-shirts, then, then you're probably tightly wound in other ways as well. You also define yourself in restrictive ways in other ways. And it's worth asking why. It's worth looking at, like, what is that about? And going back to my definition again, I think, you know, you will have to look into it yourself to figure out exactly why. But I know that each of us carries a unique and different perspective, a narrow personal lens about the world and about who we are. And we were given that story most often by our parents and our friends. We learned and adjusted it based a little bit on our stuff. Some of us, it was safe to adopt what we learned. Others sort of massaged it a little bit and sat into a place, and we call it, and we say, this is us. And we say, this is us. And then you get into your 40s, let's say, and it's us. But let me go to Billy full screen. But the very notion of us is a misnomer. The very notion of us in a persistent and unchanging, solid sense is a misreading of what is. I saw a picture of Tyler the Creator and Pharrell sitting on a car, and these are millionaire black men artists. I think Tyler might have had his nails painted. He's wearing a colorful shirt in pink and either like some tight shorts and some shoes, and they were both getting like made fun of in the comments because they're saying, this is what happens. This is how they emasculate us. This is how the white man emasculates us. They weren't even wearing like a skirt or a dress. There was nothing like explicitly effeminate about what they were wearing, but it was enough outside the realm of what like hip hop creatives, black male creatives should be doing, that it caused enough of a stir in the comments for people to try to say that this is an emasculation of these two music icons. It was, and so all I'm pointing to there is this has nothing to do with the artists themselves. It's a construction. It's a harmful construction. It's something that I think that the healing journey and the spiritual journey that we're talking about involves itself in this process of like identifying these lenses and learning to understand how creative everything actually is. The anxiety, like the people typing this out, pissed at white men for emasculating. It's like, you're looking at freedom when you look at Tyler wearing pink. I mean, I know he bends the gender stuff sometimes with his fashion. If you see Tyler in some women's clothing or prints or any of these things, you're looking at freedom. You're not looking at you've projected something entirely different. You're looking at someone who is no longer attached to the sense that he needs to or they need to perform anything. That the definitions for them are self-derived, and how they move is a matter of what feels right to them. And it is entirely self-defined, and it's an entirely different place. And I don't know of either of these two people's spiritual journey. I don't know what faith they may have or how they may identify. It's not super relevant here because, again, that brings us back into the realm of words. That brings us back into the realm of labels. He's like, oh, I'm a Christian, or I'm a this or that. And now I'm assuming things. Now I have to play that against my own assumptions about what Christianity means. And if he comports to that, they are, all of us are engaged in a journey, whether we're aware of it or not. And I think part of the spiritual journey is this beginning to give language to and map and to pay attention and to come to peace with the self and acknowledge and notice the oneness. Notice that a lot, again, the narrative of the Christian narrative of the distance between God and the earth, because of the apple narrative and the distance, that separation, and that there's a divine over here and then there's this filthy, sinful earth that we've created, because we inherited the original sin and all this stuff. These stories are super powerful, and the healing journey is like noticing that that you're a child of God and that you're God and that I am as well, and that the people around you are, and that we are, and that it is. And it offers you an opportunity of peace and an opportunity to, rise above, again, all these definitions. And that's entirely different from a spirituality. This is why I kind of like, when I talked about God for a while, I avoided using the word because I was so conscious of the fact that the word God means something very different in your head than it does in mine. It's like a linguistics consideration, and yet it works. It's still okay. The spiritual journey pertains to the process of learning to accept, learning to love reality, learning to love what is, which is a beautiful thing. What is beautiful, and it also includes a lot of terrible shit. Particularly if we're applying language to stuff, particularly if we're telling a story. But the spiritual space accepts and is able to look at without attachment and without absorbing. Accept without absorbing. Paradox. Whoever's watching this, you are of infinite importance and value, and you have a direct relationship with the divine. And you are one of several billions of people on this earth. And so, and this earth is a floating orb in this vast space of other floating orbs, many of whom explode and clash with other orbs. And so you are both super important and valuable, and somewhat insignificant. By contrast, it's about the story that you're telling. And depending on the story, the words that you give to this experience and how you're looking at it, you'll give different words, but they're all true. They're all true. That's the crazy thing. It's all true. It's like, what do you accept? What do you believe? What do you accept? What have you been told? What have you been indoctrinated to? What is the story that you find meaningful, that you hold to? It will inform how you move. It will inform who you speak up to and how, and what problems you notice and which ones you avoid. But it's all one thing. It's all true. So we're at the 44-minute mark. I'm gonna read this definition one more time, actually, before I let y'all go. for our the episode. I define spirituality as a personal, ever-evolving relationship with the divine, with the source energy resonant within all things. Okay? Applause for that. Recognizing that these are just words which can't help but fail to describe something beyond mere symbols. Words are symbols. They are human-created symbols separate from the things themselves. They attempt to point to things that are much more complex than the words themselves. I'm grateful for the words, but they aren't the thing. Very important. Spirituality points to, we attempt to point towards a journey, the journey of each of our lives. Each of us perceives this experience through a narrow, personal lens, a perspective. We are riddled with stories about what we believe we are, how we should behave. We have words and definitions and narratives about the world and about ourselves. We are preoccupied with our tax ID and our credit score and our careers and our reputations. We're socialized with definitions of beauty, notions of success and value. We have anxieties about all of these things. The spiritual journey is a challenging personal process to unravel these stories, to shed them on your time, at your pace, but to even be aware that this is a thing is something that I wasn't even aware of for the first 35 years of my life. To even be aware that there is a journey, there's something to arrive at, there's something more than just chasing money, let's say, or chasing how to be seen by an employer or something like that. There's a personal process to unravel my stories and arrive at truth, which is that it's all one thing. This moment, me, you, the earth, the trees, the animals, God, the people in Palestine, the people in Israel, the people in New Jersey, the people everywhere. It's all one thing, that we are perfect. We have the potential for a vast range of human behaviors, but we have the potential for a flourishing love, and we are in relationship with the divine. Coming to a place of acceptance, radical acceptance, because all stories are true. Seeing the divine in oneself and in the external world, yo. Yeah? Yeah? How about that? That is the spirituality definition that I have. And that's my attempt to give language to something that has limited language. By definition, by its very nature, it has limited language. But if you give 48 minutes to it, maybe you can get to something. Maybe you can point to something interesting. We can all kind of refine our definitions, no matter what we call ourselves, whatever our faith is, whatever our religion, faith tradition, or our atheism, that we can all be clear that we're not talking about some dude in the clouds. You know what I mean? All right. That's the episode. Thanks very much. We're going to leave you out with Fool's Journey. Yo, we're doing one episode a day for 30 fucking days. Today's the day 9. I'll see you tomorrow. I got to figure out what we're going to talk about. Peace. Fool's Journey. Path unseen, lane opens. My name ring bells, barriers sound broken. The pain grows till the veins open. Chosen, no matter how you slice it up. Same quotient, cook all summer, flame throwing. We all in like fam, just prayed over it. Hands move in the same motion, chain smoking. The wave ocean is, wait, let me start over. Eyes won't blink, I stay woken. How the words so deep or plain spoken. Spitting that raw medicine, insane dosage. The price is way up like a change token. Lyrically brain lotion, slick but I ain't boasting. Living these mundane moments, sipping a strange potion. My rhymes coldest when I stay focused. I pen a poem, leave your brain jolted. Too many many fake poses, forgot this king culture. Carry the weight like I got 8 shoulders. My 16 bars is hard, my 32 doing the mostest. Double my inner searching, found the same culprit. Damn. What if I'm limitless though?